What's the impact of AI and machine learning in recruiting? Is it going to revolutionize recruiting and help us go beyond resumes, or is it going to make everything worse? Today, I'm discussing this topic with one of the top AI researchers in the world.
My name is Anima Anand Kumar. I'm a professor at Caltech, as well as Director of Machine Learning Research at NVIDIA.
So there's a lot of talk about impact of AI in a lot of disciplines, but I've always been fascinated about the potential impact of AI in recruiting. So I wonder what you think about it and the future of this.
AI has the potential to revolutionize every domain, right? And even disrupt the way we do things. And it'll be the same with recruiting and hiring. AI has the potential to first help people retrain or acquire new skills much easily than ever before. And in all age groups, especially the older population, if they can get into AI and get into the emerging areas, get into computer programming, there is so much of potential for them to have better lives. And this is important as many jobs will be potentially lost, right? So it's important for us to retrain our workforce, and we need AI that can enable us to do that. So personalized education would be a big win. On the downside, where I worry the most is the bias that can go into these hiring systems when AI is introduced and potentially the whole system gets automated. For instance, I guess you saw in the news about the controversy of Amazon training a hiring bot based on its historic data and then finding out that it was significantly downweighting resumes of women. You know, the historic biases exist everywhere. Women have faced sexism in every industry, in every company. And so taking that historic data and saying that, we'll train a system and where the success is measured according to this historic data and then apply it on all the current resumes would be catastrophically bad.
It just takes that and amplifies it, right?
Exactly. It makes the bias worse. It makes our diversity and inclusivity worse. Sure. So we need to be very careful on how we apply AI. I also hear about some really controversial startups that try to use emotion during the interviews, like all kinds of nonverbal cues during interviews, and somehow come up with an assessment of how good is this person.
Or like video interviews analysis during sort of like a recorded video interview, yeah.
We don't know what is the appropriate behavior, right? Like how are we penalizing a person based on their so-called nonverbal cues? And so where the standard is the white male and everybody else who does not follow that is penalized. And the other aspect is there is so little data in terms of in terms of minorities or people who deviate from that norm. And so there I find it hugely problematic.
But I guess how else would you do it, right? Because machine learning is only one way to do AI. And machine learning obviously trains on existing data sets, which are already biased. Do you see any other potential where it can have a positive impact on recruiting, like maybe around measuring skills?
We can use AI as a diagnostic to say, how well are we doing in terms of our diversity and inclusivity? It's not just the numbers. It's like, how are we judging people? How did we make these hiring decisions? That's where I see a lot of possibility for positive impact because it can flag disturbing trends.
Absolutely.
And a lot of actually diversity and inclusivity issues come up not with recruiting. Many of the top companies do very well in recruiting in large numbers, especially at junior levels. But where the problem is attrition. So many women and minorities live in a much shorter time span than others, right? And the reason is if you do not create a healthy environment and if you do not do enough to retain the hired candidates, right, then all these goals cannot be achieved. And that's where I think AI has the potential to monitor all those goals and ask how well we are
find all those patterns, all those negative patterns and point it out. Yeah, absolutely. Machine learning is not going to be any better than us at reviewing resumes. What it does do very well, though, is find patterns in a large data set that can create a sort of a mirror, which will help us see how sexist, racist, and overall biased the resume-based approach to recruiting is. That's all for today. Let's go beyond resumes.